Hi, I'm Daryl Battagna, Director of Collections at Glenbow. I'm going to share with you and talk about a few of the objects we have in our collection relating to beer. I hope you enjoy it. Beer is one of the oldest drinks in the world and one of the most consumed, coming in only after tea and water according to some sources. It was invented independently by cultures all over the world. It has been part of our diet, our leisure time, it's been used as part of rituals, and at times it's been part of our wages. It was first mentioned thousands of years ago. It appeared in Europe about 5,000 years ago. The oldest still extant food regulation in the world actually applies to beer. The Duke of Bavaria ruled in the purity law of 1516 that the only ingredients allowed would be water, hops, and barley malt. Closer to home, we've enjoyed our beer in beer parlors, in gardens, and on verandas. Right now, there are approximately 38 independent breweries in the Calgary region. It's been enjoyed by men and women, such as Lily Plant sitting on a veranda in Bankview sometime around 1905 or 1910. Sometimes we've shared it broadly, such as with a bear having a sip in 1905 behind the Merchants Bank in Vegreville. Frank Moody and two of his friends took a beer break in 1930. They're drinking products of Calgary Brewery. The Calgary Brewing and Malting Company was founded by A.E. Cross in 1892. They produced their first beer in 1893. They registered the iconic buffalo head and horseshoe logo that same year. Over the next 5 decades, Calgary Brewing purchased 3 other breweries, Golden West and Silver Star in Calgary, and Northwest Brewing in Edmonton. Their most important product was Calgary Export Lager, distributed primarily in Western Canada, but it also went as far as China and Australia. They were one of the largest employers in early Calgary, and they were one of the first companies in Alberta to introduce a pension plan and insurance for employees. A.E. Cross passed away in 1932. His son J.B. Cross took over as president. Under Cross's leadership, the brewery had very much a community orientation. It supported local sports through the Calgary Buffalo Athletic Association. It developed the grounds as a garden for people to enjoy. It established a fish hatchery, and 2 personal projects for JB were the development of an aquarium and the establishment of the Horsemen's Hall of Fame, a Western Heritage Museum that opened in 1964. When the Horsemen's Hall of Fame closed in 1975, its collection came to Glenbow. Calgary Brewing was bought in 1961 by Canadian breweries. It continued to change ownership over the following years, finally being bought by Molson Breweries in 1989. This 8-gallon beer keg is from the Fernie-Fort Steele Brewing Company and dates from about 1908. Fort Steele Brewing was first established at Fort Steele in 1898. It was first known as Kaiser and Sick Brewery. The Sick name was also associated with brewing in Lethbridge. It moved to Fernie in 1901, to the metropolis of the coal district. Sometime between 1905 and 1908, they changed their name to Fernie-Fort Steele. It was one of the largest breweries in British Columbia. In it was found every modern improvement for the production of lager beer and porter, and they claimed their beers were unexcelled for their transparency and flavor. Fernie-Fort Steele Brewing had a branch in Frank and sold their product throughout British Columbia and into Alberta. This Wedgewood Cambridge Ale Jug dates from about 1850. The lid on the jug is an addition and was produced by Robert Hendery, one of Canada's most important 19th century silversmiths. The jug was acquired by William Mackay, a Hudson's Bay Company fur trader, when he was promoted to chief factor for Fort Ellice between 1865 and 1870. His family believed the jug was given to Mackay by the HBC. The jug provides a link to ale and also to important parts of Canadian history. Mackay was a 3rd-generation fur trader in Canada, and in 1876 he witnessed the signing of Treaty 6. And it provides a link to Montreal-based Hendery, who dominated the colonial silver market and by 1863 was said to be without peer. In this case, he provided a simple silver lid with the iconic beaver as a finial. This beaker appears to be somewhat more modest than the Wedgewood jug. It is originally from Scotland. The beaker is made from horn lined with silver and dates from the 1700s, and in addition to a silver lining, it also has a silver rim. Horn beakers come in various shapes. Some, like this one, are cut off to resemble a glass or cup. Others retain their horn shape. The horn was cut, smoothed, and a base was put on it, and in some cases a lining was added. This type of beaker, and the use of cow horns to produce them, was actually quite common. This very well-used tankard dates from about the 1790s. It's not in pristine condition. It has several dents, and the maker's mark and the escutcheon are well worn, but that means it was well used, and for me that's part of the appeal. Tankards are usually made of silver or pewter, although they can also be made from wood, ceramic, or even leather. In this case, it's made of pewter. It was produced by Carpenter and Hamburger, who were located on Panton Street in St. James in the Haymarket area of London. Carpenter and Hamburger were Henry Carpenter and Elizabeth Hamburger. Elizabeth was the widow of John Hamburger, a pewterer. She'd been appointed in place of her husband as pewterer to the Royal Hospital in Chelsea when he died in the 1840s. Henry Carpenter died in 1804, so presumably this piece was produced relatively late in his career. This is an assortment of bottles from various breweries in Calgary and a bit further afield, showing a variety of designs and a commonality in shape. The Silver Spray bottle dates from between 1919 and 1926. Special light Silver Spray beer. Silver Spray was a Calgary brewery, one of those eventually purchased by Calgary Brewing. It became Bighorn Brewing. The Pilsner bottle is from Lethbridge Breweries with its iconic label containing, amongst other things, a train, an airplane, and a stagecoach. Bighorn Stout was produced by Dow Brewery Western Company in Calgary. The Bruin beer bottle is from the Northwest Brewing Company in Edmonton, another company eventually acquired by Calgary Brewing in 1958 and renamed Bohemian Maid. The final bottle in this grouping is from a Winnipeg beer maker, E.L. Drury. Drury came to Winnipeg from North Dakota in 1877 and leased an existing brewery. Unlike the other bottles, which are the common brown color, this one is clear, and it has a very clear message right on the bottle. This bottle is our property. Any charge made therefore simply covers its use while containing goods bottled by us and must be returned when empty. Although a slightly different product, I've also included two bottles that contain ginger beer. Ginger beer was first brewed in Yorkshire in the 1750s. It became particularly popular during the Victorian era and was at its most popular during the early years of the 20th century. There are two versions of ginger beer, alcoholic and not. Felix J. Quinn was a Nova Scotia businessman who had a brewery for a time in the 1860s. He eventually manufactured soda water and lemonade. The Old English ginger beer bottle was found at Cranbourne in BC and was produced by Phillips Brothers in Calgary. We have two tankards of similar design, a common design of a cut glass tankard with a silver or pewter lid. The first comes from the estate of a gentleman named Adam Hettinger. He was a Calgary-based geologist who was also a passionate collector of fine and decorative art. Amongst the many objects he collected was this 1850s tankard with a thumbprint design. The second tankard, also cut glass with a pewter lid, came to Glenbow from the estate of Lars Peter Eriksson. Eriksson was born in Denmark. He immigrated to Canada in 1914. He started his life in Canada as a farmer. He eventually joined the staff at Olds College, or Old School as it was at that time. After leaving the school in 1945, he went back to farming and raised purebred cattle. This beautifully made Moosehead beer crate came to us from the estate of Ed Johnston, who was, amongst other things, the president of Calgary's United Way, and who was described as a dedicated traveler and collector. Amongst his other collections was product packaging, and this crate is one of many of the packages to make their way into Glenbow's collection. Moosehead is Canada's oldest independent brewery, based in St. John's, New Brunswick. It was founded in Halifax in 1867 and is in its sixth generation of family ownership, the Olin family. In 1931, Moosehead Pale Ale was introduced, and shortly afterward, the brewery name was changed into Moosehead Breweries, a name and a symbol that have become Canadian icons. This growler comes to Glenbow from Cold Garden Beverage Company. It was produced by Cold Garden as a thank you for the support and loyalty of their customers during the pandemic. It features their mascot Nomi and comes with an image that can be painted by the customer. In this case, it was painted by Tess Edwards, a staff member at Cold Garden.